When films in India started releasing directly on OTT platforms, I was excited. Like many, I believed this would open the doors for better, bolder storytelling. Films that perhaps don't light the box office on fire, but earn their audience slowly over months and years. It made sense. For years, films have only been greenlit if they resemble whatever recently worked at the box office. That's a very narrow lens to judge stories through, and it made the space for writers and creators very small, limits imagination. So when OTT became a legitimate release platform, it felt like a creative breakthrough. No pressure to hit 100 crores. Maybe now films could finally breathe again. But after watching years of direct to OTT releases, something else has become clear. We have an entirely new problem now. These films aren't necessarily more original or thoughtful. In fact, many of them feel even more hollow than the ones made purely for box office. Like they weren't made to tell great stories, but simply to hold your attention just long enough. These are second screen films, as they call it. The kind you watch while half scrolling on your phone. They don't ask for much from you, and they don't offer much in return. They just play on and you kind of watch them on the side. But do they also have to feel so awful? On paper, Do Patti looked promising. A dark mystery set in a beautiful haunting hill station. A detective chasing buried secrets, Kajol in the lead. Sounds great, doesn't it? But the experience of watching it was something else entirely. It felt hollow, unpleasant, and it got worse as it went on. So, what was the problem? Well, firstly, everyone is a psychopath. And if there is a good person, they are completely powerless. The villains are rotten and the good people are helpless. In this kind of world, there is no one to root for. And this isn't just about Do Patti. It's become a pattern for films everywhere now. The epidemic of unlikable characters is upon us, friends, especially in the films made directly for OTT platforms. I am not sure about you guys, but personally, I am exhausted with this cynical worldview. To watch it in so many movies over and over again. But before I break down all the wonderful characters in this film, let me tell you what Do Patti is all about. Spoiler alert. I'm going to reveal some major plot points. So if you haven't seen Do Patti, please first go watch the film and come back for the rest of this video. We should respect the effort put into telling a story. It's hard to make a film, even a bad one. Do Patti is a story about Soumya, played by Kriti Sanon. She's trapped in a brutally abusive marriage with Dhruv, played by Shahir Sheikh. Abusive meaning we see him assaulting her physically, almost to death. She needs to get out of this relationship, but he is the son of some big shot businessman, spoilt and protected from the law. Whereas she is just a helpless girl with no family. He threatens to kill her if she tries to leave. Soumya has a twin sister, Shelly. Shelly is not innocent like her sister, but she hates Soumya and has been at war with her forever. A childhood rivalry. We see Shelly trying to hurt Soumya over and over again. Poor Soumya can't catch a break. However, at some point, this crisis in Soumya's life with her husband compels the evil twin to finally feel protective about her sister. An external threat brings the family together. So the twins unite and they orchestrate an intricate conspiracy, a twisted game that manages to fool everyone. Hence the name Do Patti. They frame her husband in a fake attempt to murder case. They successfully get him arrested and convicted in court for this. Soumya is too frightened to even speak to the cops about her domestic abuse. But Shelley, she is devious and audacious. Enough to plant evidence, trick the cops, lie and manipulate endlessly till this plan is successful. And so he goes to jail and Soumya is finally free. I have simplified it here quite a bit. The film is far more convoluted. The relationship between the twins is quite abusive and their method to get justice is questionable at best. And the plot goes all over the place. Lots of bait and switch. Much of it was not very engaging. But still, does this not sound like a powerful revenge story? It does to me, at least on paper. But I felt that the characters failed this otherwise interesting story. Soumya is a sweet girl with an endearing innocence. She's traumatized from her childhood, where she witnessed her mother being abused and then killed. When she meets Dhruv and falls in love, I was happy for her. It felt like something good finally happened. But then it slowly unravels that Dhruv is not a very good person. He openly has an affair with her twin sister and they make out right in front of her. Terrible. But somehow, it does not bother her enough to want to get away from him. Soumya still marries him. I understand, maybe she sees the best in people. Perhaps she's desperate for love, but she shows very little self respect here. Even then, I hoped that we would see some fire in her eventually, a redemption of sorts, but it never comes. Just before the third act, we see her having a kind of a psychological breakdown, like she's imagining things and people around her. We discover that her childhood trauma is way worse than we were initially led to believe. This is a very sad moment indeed. It instantly broke my connection with this character. I no longer know for sure what really happened with her and what part has she imagined. And what's worse is, she just disappears from the film after this point. Her story is pushed to the back seat. The whole story started with her being abused, but then she gets no monologue, never gets to speak the truth about her experience or call out her abusers, and no moment to celebrate her freedom either. Just thanks for the suffering, now go away. Your pain helped us set up this story. What could weak little Soumya do anyway, yeah? They make it very hard to root for her, even though she's a good person. This guy, he's petty, stupid, violent, controlling, abusive, and somehow also boring. Not even interesting. He has no layers and is very one tone. They hammer it into our heads that there is nothing redeemable about this guy. Well, they like writing men this way now. But then, how are the two leading ladies of the story fighting over him? Do they not see how bad he is? I guess Soumya does not see it because she's too crippled emotionally. Shelley probably sees it, but only entertains him to hurt her sister. He himself seems to just be using the women. Absolutely no love anywhere in this love triangle. Another reason why this film is hard to sit through. In the third act, he is getting slapped around, falsely framed for attempted murder, and ultimately sentenced. He has no real way to fight back other than growling. What ends up happening is he does not even come off as a formidable villain. He's just a moron who gets played far too easily. Shelley is the star of the story. She emerges as the main character once Soumya is sidelined. Shelley is here to get revenge. She is here to take over the world. I believe they wrote the film for this character. Shelley is also deeply narcissistic. And this is not ambiguous in any which way. They made it very clear. Why do I say this? Well, let's see. She really hates her sister, sabotages her life at every step. When Soumya finds love, Shelley seduces the guy and tries to ruin the relationship. She does not stop even when they get married. She continues trying to destroy their relationship quite openly. When she finds out Soumya is being physically assaulted, she doesn't seem to care much about that either. Just shrugs it away. Then she finds out Soumya is severely traumatized, having breakdowns, hallucinations, and then, finally, she decides to help out. But she shows very little remorse for abusing her sister for years. We are to believe that you are affected by Dhruv abusing her, but you seem quite unaffected by you abusing her. You tormented your sister all these years. She has a few brief moments when she hugs her sister, but then immediately starts lying and manipulating again. Just directed at the bad guy now, thankfully. That's good, I guess. But honestly, it would not be surprising if she would start abusing her sister again right after Dhruv is gone. Not to mention, she also did claim to like him earlier. Clearly also not true. No real love there either. And her big redemption arc is planning revenge through more manipulation and more lies. Her core competency. Quite convenient. But since she's saving her sister, we are supposed to be okay with all this. I wasn't. I found her unbearable. Inspector Vidya, played by the lovely Kajol, The main reason I even hit play on this film. I have always loved her screen presence. She plays a truth seeker, an honest, sharp cop. From the beginning, she smells something fishy in this household. So we go along for the ride, hoping she'll pull the truth out from this web of lies, be the beacon of reason in this twisted game. But does that happen? Unfortunately, no. One of the most disappointing parts of this story, she does not figure the mystery out, at least not in time to make a difference, rendering this character utterly powerless, just like Soumya. She gets turned into a pawn in Shelley's game. I related to this character the most. She's frantic, going all over the evidence over and over again, desperate to understand what's really going on. Much like me, watching this film multiple times, trying to make sense of why it felt so unwatchable. And just like her, I figured it out, but too late. She gets completely played, charges a man with a false case, and then plays the attorney to try him in court to conviction. After realizing she was played, initially she does have the right instinct to reopen the case. But guess what happens? She gets played again. Shelley convinces her to let the case go and let him rot in prison. She does that by giving an impassioned speech in court. Some more lies and some more manipulation. This inspector, my friends, is no beacon. Which brings me to what I think is Do Patti's biggest crime, the dishonesty. They try to paint Shelley as virtuous when she's not. The truth is, I don't mind watching a story full of narcissists if the film knows what it's showing me. But when a story tries to sell monsters as heroes, I feel lied to. I quite loved the idea of siblings getting over their issues to take on the world, especially when they have gone through so much together. When they lose their parents at such a young age, their family is shattered, and now the crisis forces them both to recognize the value of family and finally show up for each other to take down an entitled abuser. I love that story. There is love in it. There is redemption in it. For this story to work, we would have to see the two sisters connect, make it right with each other, show some form of love, respect or understanding, which we never really see. What if Shelley had shown some remorse for abusing her sister all these years? For me, there is a point from where a character can come back, can be redeemed. But Shelley, I thought, went too far in destroying her sister and then just shrugged her shoulders out of it. What if Soumya wasn't just broken and helpless, but had enough strength to stand up for herself? Injustice was done to Soumya, so she had the moral right to seek revenge. But Shelley takes over and decides that there is no path for truth here. She uses more lies and more manipulation to bring down the psychopath. Inspector Vidya then had to be left in the dark the whole time so that she could get out of Shelley's way. What if she had used her brilliance to help the sisters instead? The way they told the story, it feels like a war between psychopaths while good people watch helplessly. And the filmmaker chose that over what I think would have been a more powerful revenge story. Normally, I just ignore a bad film. But this now has unfortunately become way too common. So I believe we have to talk about it. Since everyone's wondering what happened to films, I think it's time we start asking what happened to our stories. What's happening to our characters? Thanks for listening. I'll see you soon with another story. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until then, take care.